Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ed Flynn. I'm the City Council President. Viewers can watch the City Council meeting live on YouTube by visiting boston.gov/citycouncil-tv. I'd like to ask my colleagues and those in attendance in the audience to please silence your cell phones, electronic devices. Thank you. I also would like to ask everyone to be respectful and do not disturb the meeting while we are here. If you are disruptive, you'll be asked to leave. If you fail to comply, you will be escorted out. We're going to do the roll call. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll to ascertain the presence of a quorum?
Councilor Arroyo. Present. Councilor Baker. Here. Councilor Barr. Present. Councilor Brady. Present.
Councilor Edwards. Councilor Fernandez Anderson. Present. Councilor Flaherty. Here. Councilor Flynn.
Here.
Councilor Lara. Present. Councilor Louis-Jean. Present. Councilor Mejia. Councilor Murphy. Present. And Councilor Worrell.
Thank you. I have been informed by the clerk that a quorum is present. This week's clergy is Reverend Rivers, invited by City Councilor Baker. Councilor Baker and Reverend Rivers, if you'd come to the podium, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Reverend, for coming out and being here with us today. Reverend Eugene Rivers is a former gang member who has committed himself to community development, faith-based initiatives, along with domestic and foreign policy issues. He's widely published and Harvard educated. In 1984, he founded Azusa Christian Community in Dorchester, where he lives with his wife, Jacqueline. Rivers is a co-founder of the 10-Point Coalition and co-chair of the National 10-Point Leadership Foundation, two programs committed to the revitalization of families and communities in which Boston youth grow up. He's a passion for collaboration with the city in building a safe and bright future for our city, and is committed to preaching and teaching the gospel of the people and youth of Boston. And he might not even remember when I first met Reverend Rivers. It was back when I used to be a restaurant owner, and when I would stand outside of my restaurant on Dorchester Ave, he would walk by and I would grab him and we would talk, and that's when I originally met him close to 20 years ago. So without further ado, Reverend Eugene Rivers.
Thank you. Thank you. Counselor, I want to thank you and for your generosity and consideration. I'm very thankful to be here today. I bring you greetings from the People's Republic of Four Corners in Dorchester. Anybody here from Dorchester? I need to get a shout out. Somebody from Dorchester. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. From Dorchester. Yes, yes. God bless you, and I'm looking to talk to you. Right. I have been blessed to live and serve in Dorchester, where I moved into Four Corners in 1987, when the city of Boston was on fire. It was on fire. You had the Apple Boys, you had the Detroit Boys, and the violence was extraordinary. My house was shot into, shot at 26 times. Since they weren't marksmen, the first 3 bullets went in my son's bedroom, who was 3 years old. The individuals that shot into my house on that occasion were not white police officers. They were not white racists. In fact, they weren't white at all. They were young men who had got caught up in the gang culture because during that period, there were drug cartels that controlled certain neighborhoods. And as a result, people lived in fear as a result of violence. I'm black, my wife is black, my kids are black. I live in a black neighborhood. So I had a real concern, having been raised in Philly, where there are real thugs. I left Philadelphia to come to Boston to go to college. I'm here before you this afternoon to briefly issue a challenge to our political leadership, and very specifically to black political leadership. This morning, there was a meeting held at the Ella J. Baker House that begins at 9 a.m., where over 40 organizations are represented. That's 40 real organizations on a weekly basis. Some of you I have seen there. Some of you I've seen once, then I never saw you again. But this morning, we were talking about the challenges that confront young black people, as we noted that in too many of our public schools, there is violence that's going on. And what makes the issue of violence bad is that the victims are overwhelmingly young black people. Yet, I want everyone to catch this. Northeastern University have armed security details that protect those affluent non-black people that attend that university. Harvard University, where there's lots of danger and violence, they have armed details that protect the rich white people and the bourgeois black people who attend. MIT, Boston University, no one challenges the right of these elite institutions to provide the adequate security to ensure the safety of those wealthy people. Yet, when it comes to black people, somehow we get confused. There should not be the appropriate level of security provided for young black people. And so a game is played at the expense of black youth. Yes, we must provide armed security for the rich, the affluent. And not one of y'all in here would have anything to say about that. Yet, when we talk about saving the lives of black children at Madison Park or the Henderson, where there's violence, the elected representatives of color should have been the first people that stood up and said, we must ensure the security and do whatever is necessary so that our children don't have to. Now, I want you to get how deep this is. Our children don't have to arm themselves because there's not adequate security to protect them when the bad guy comes in with his pistol. It's a shame. And I come this afternoon to issue a moral challenge to those that purport to be leadership. I live in the hood. My house has been shot into. I was in a meeting where they talked about guns that were pulled out on children in the schools, and all they had to protect themselves were social workers who could do nothing more than hide when the guns were drawn. I want to issue a challenge. I invite all of you. The Violence Reduction Task Force has been around since 1998, consistently. In fact, we have had visitors from France, Germany, Italy, the United Kingdom, Jamaica, where they've come to examine a model. And I'm going to end on this. Boston, in fact, if you've lived on the planet Earth and you've been to Philadelphia, Jersey City, New Orleans, Chicago, which is essentially a country, Baltimore, Boston, in comparison to any of those cities, if you bother to do your research, stands out as a model. And so I'm here to celebrate the facts, which are that our children deserve to have the same security that rich white people have when they go to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Boston University, or Northeastern. And I ask and I challenge you to consider, why is it okay, especially you elected officials of color, why is it okay for rich whites to be protected at Harvard and MIT, yet we deny the same security be granted to the poor? Where is the justice in that? I thought Black Lives Matter. Well, if they do, there should be security to protect their lives. We need responsible law enforcement. There were some fools that said defund the police. No, we needed to reform the police. And we need political leadership that have the courage and the decency to defend the interests of the poor. Don't wink at protection for the wealthy and the affluent, and then let our children go to schools where they live in fear because their political leadership has morally and politically failed them. And on that note, I want to pray. God, we thank you and praise you for your goodness, your love, and your mercy. Lord, we pray for political leadership. I pray in particular for political leadership of color, that we would all stand shoulder to shoulder, serving and listening to the needs of the poorest of the poor. Lord, continue to bless this great city. Lord, I pray for our politicians. I pray for our law enforcement community. I pray for the mothers of the children that are sentenced to schools where violence is a routine state of affairs. God, we ask a blessing. I pray for my politicians of color that they will step up and come into these violent, poor neighborhoods and listen to the suffering and the pain of the mothers whose children end up going to schools where they're denied the security that the white and powerful take for granted. All these things, God, we pray in your name. Everybody say amen. Amen. Come on, say it again. Amen. Don't be scared. I'm black. There you go. You ain't got to be scared to say it up in here. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you're able to, please rise, and Reverend, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend, and thank you, City Councilor Baker. We're going to start at the approval of the minutes. Now on to the first order of business, which is the approval of the minutes. Seeing and hearing no discussion on the matter, the chair moves to approve the minutes from the last meeting as presented. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. The meeting of the last minute stands as approved. Communications from Her Honor, the Mayor. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0402.
Docket number 0402, message in order approving a supplemental appropriation of $2,954,828 to cover the fiscal year 22 cost items contained within the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Boston and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO Council 93, AFSCME. The term of the contract is July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. The major provisions of the contract include base wage increases of 2%, 1.5%, and 2% to be given in October of each fiscal year of the contract term. filed in the office of the city clerk on March 21st, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Docket 0402 will be referred to the Committee on City Services, Innovation, Technology. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0403.
Docket number 0403, message in order to reduce the fiscal year 22 appropriation for the reserve for collective bargaining by $2,954,828 to provide funding for various departments for the fiscal year 22 increases contained within the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Boston and the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFL-CIO Council 93, AFSCME.
Thank you. Docket 0403 will be referred to the Committee on City Services, Innovation, Technology. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0404.
Docket number 0404, message in order authorizing the City of Boston to accept and expend the amount of $1,056,840 in the form of a grant for the State Fiscal Year 22 Council on Aging Formula Grant, awarding by the Massachusetts Executive Office of Elder Affairs to be administered by the H. Strong Commission. The grant will fund services for 88,070 older adults in the City of Boston at $12 per person, according to the 2020 census.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Docket 0404 will be referred to the Committee on Strong Women, Families, Communities. Before we go on to the report of officers, let the record reflect that Councilor Edwards is present, Mr. Clerk. Reports of public officers and others, Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0405 through 0408 together.
Docket number 0405, notice was received from the mayor of the appointment of Henry Lutine as interim director of the Office of Labor Relations for a 60-day period commencing March 18, 2022. Docket number 0406, notice was received from the mayor of the appointment of Ralph Jackson as a member of the Beacon Hill Architectural Commission for a term expiring on May 1st, 2023. Docket number 0407, notice was received from the mayor of the appointment of Edward Fleck as an alternate member of the Beacon Hill Architectural Commission for a term expiring May 1st, 2024. And docket number 0408, notice was received from the mayor of the appointment of Mark Kiefer as a member of the Beacon Hill Architectural Commission for a term expiring May 1st, 2026.
Docket 0405 through 0408 will be placed on file. Before we continue, the chair recognizes Councilor Buck.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was just wondering if maybe you could ask someone on Central Staff just to confirm that those three appointments don't require confirmation by the council, because it's, the previous appointments for that board, I know we've sat and done confirmation, and I know the board is urgently in need of a quorum, so if, in fact, the council does need to act on these, I would rather we figure that out while we can still do reconsideration during the meeting. So just, if Mr. President, if somebody could just double check that those are actually just notices.
Thank you, Councilor Block, for bringing that to our attention. At this time, the chair recognizes Councilor Flaherty. Councilor Flaherty, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Concur with the previous speaker. That's how they've always been done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. We will check that during this hearing, and we will figure out the answer for that. Thank you, Councilor Block, for bringing that to our attention.
We have to get
Report of public officers. Mr. Clerk. Yeah. Matters recently heard for possible action. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0294, please.
docket number 0294, order for a hearing regarding a cradle-to-career tracking system.
The chair recognizes Councilor Mejia, Chair of the Committee on Education. Councilor Mejia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Monday, the Boston City Council Committee on Education held a hearing on docket 0294, order for a hearing regarding a cradle-to-career system sponsored by my colleagues, Councilor Roel, Murphy, and Flaherty. I just want to give a shout out to Councilor Roel for bringing this forth to the council and his leadership in the space. Really happy to have shared the space with you for the first time. on the council floor, so it's great to be with you alongside this. We were also joined by our colleagues, Councilors Finland, Breeden, Louis-Jean, Fernandez Anderson, and from the administration, we were joined by Marcia Ines Mitchell, BPS Director of Post-Secondary Partnerships and Initiatives, Rasad Cope, who is the Director of Youth Engagement and Employment, and Alex Valdez, the Executive Director of Office of Women's Advancement. We were also joined by a wide array of advocates and experts on this issue, including Will Austin, Dr. Nancy Hill, Penny Bender-Cimbrin, Kristen McSwain, Renee Dozier, and Dr. Sarah Cherry Rice. We had a great discussion around the concept of a system that monitors a student's success and future career aspirations from a young age. And we also learned from the administration that there's currently not a clear and centralized database of information on students that's monitoring students' development, can sometimes be the responsibility of several different departments. We learned from the advocates that there is a clear need for improved access to services. In many ways, we are already providing the resources. It's just a matter of making sure that students and families are aware of them and are taking full advantage of them. As I always say, Boston is a resource-rich city, but a coordination poor, and this hearing really lifted that up. I'm hoping that we will be able to follow up with the administration either through a working session and potentially through some other legislative action, which I know Councilor Rowell will be all up for it. And I'm going to be asking that we keep this docket in committee and invite the lead sponsor if he is prepared. So if Flynn says yes to say a few remarks, so I'm going to take a seat now.
Okay. Thank you, Council Mejia. Would anyone else like to speak on this matter? The chair recognizes Council Rowell. Council Rowell, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Flynn, and thank you to Central staff. I know this was a long hearing. My staff, my colleagues, co-sponsors with me on this, Councilor Murphy and Councilor Flaherty. I'm looking forward to your continued collaboration, and a special thank you to Councilor Mejia for chairing such a great hearing. This was my first hearing on a matter I sponsored, so I was excited to see the enthusiasm around this idea. We heard from such incredible panelists, Rashad Cope, Alex Valdez, and Marcia Enos Mitchell from the administration, and Will Austin, Dr. Nancy Hill, Penny Bender-Sebring, Kristen McSwain, Renee Dozier, and Dr. Sarah Cherry Rice. It is so refreshing to hear from so many advocates around the shared goal for moving the needle for our young people in their system. The challenge is that there's initiative overload, and we need to streamline all these efforts that are currently underway. We are looking forward to having continued conversations around the creation of a department and clarity on what data we will be collecting and how it will be operationalized to continue to push the needle for our young people. For example, Dr. Nancy Hill of the Boston Area Research Initiative, who is also a developmental psychologist, spoke to the different types of longitudinal data that speaks to the mindset of our students and the outlook of the job market, which then determines how they engage in school. The department would ideally take the collected surveys from students, quantitative data from our schools, 311 cases, 911 calls, building permits, and additional metrics to create the index interface needed to use this data to inform policy. The goal is that this will be a vehicle to validate and evaluate the data that reflects what risks and opportunities students bring with them in their backpacks based on their neighborhoods and the amount of resources available to them. This helps determine where we should be allocating funded and programming based on opportunities to move the needle for our young people. We are happy to see that this has inspired our colleagues to introduce something similar that focuses on parent engagement, and we hope to collaborate with every interested stakeholder on their efforts to streamline data and create clear pathways for our young people by giving them all the support that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Worrell. Would anyone else like to speak on this matter?
It's just the mayor. I forget what section it is. Just the mayor gets confirmed.
0294 will remain in committee. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0200, please.
Docket number 0200, order for a hearing on government transparency and accountability towards surveillance equipment.
The chair recognizes Council Mejia, Chair of the Committee on Government Accountability, Transparency, Accessibility. Council Mejia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Government Accountability, Transparency, and Accessibility held its maiden hearing on docket 0200 in order for a hearing on government transparency and accountability towards surveillance equipment. This matter was sponsored by myself and Councilor Arroyo, and we were joined by my colleagues, Councilor Bach, Flaherty, Louisian, Anderson, Anderson, Lara, Flynn, Edwards, who is the vice chair of the committee. From the administration, we were joined by Lisa O'Brien, Bureau Chief of Administration and Technology, Superintendent Philippe Colon, Bureau Chief of Investigative Services, Sergeant Detective Eric Bullman, Special Investigations Unit, and Maureen Joyce, who's the city auditor. We were also joined by Fatima Ahmad, the Executive Director of the Muslim Justice League, and Kate Crawford from the ACLU. As our first hearing in this committee, I would like to express my thanks to all of our colleagues for coming prepared with excellent questions, I have to say. My colleagues brought in some really great perspective, so I really do appreciate your level of willingness to lean in and really help us get to some of the root causes of some of the transparency and accessibility issues that we have been facing here in the city for far too long. We learned a lot regarding the purchasing of the cell site stimulator, how it's used, and what the process is in regards to how civil asset forfeiture dollars are used. We also walked away from the hearing with a number of requests for information, which we'll be following up in the coming days. Specifically, we will be asking for information on the following: the 1997 agreement and the federal equitable sharing agreement mentioned during Councilor Bach's questioning, information regarding the federal database on civil asset forfeiture, a breakdown of the civil asset forfeiture dollars obtained from individuals with convictions versus non-convictions, a breakdown of the extingent circumstances, a log of every time the cell site simulator has been turned on as recommended by CADE. We are hopeful that the administration will cooperate with our committee as we seek to shed light on this topic and work with our Boston delegation in the State House to continue to push for transparency on all things public safety. And for now, as the chair, I move that this docket remain in committee. And I just quickly wanted to uplift that when we created this committee, it was really with the hope of helping people understand the role that government plays, but more importantly, creating space for people to hold ourselves, to hold us accountable, and as counselors, for us to be able to lean into that and hold space to have these conversations, because at the end of the day, these are public dollars and people need to know how they're being used. So I really do appreciate all of my colleagues for participating, and the administration, more importantly, for showing up. Thank you, Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Would anyone else like to speak on this matter? Docket 0200 will remain in committee. At this time, I also want to acknowledge our former colleague is here, former city councilor, former mayor of Boston, Kim Janey. Mayor Janey, welcome. The mayor is with a group of students, so we also want to welcome the students here, and you have a great teacher right there, so welcome to the students as well. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0192 and 0314 together.
Docket number 0192, order for a hearing regarding using planning and land use tools for public good. And docket number 0314, message in order for your approval, an order for a short-term extension of 9 of the 14 remaining urban renewal plans in Boston.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Baker, Chair of the Committee on Planning, Transportation, Development. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for allowing me to merge these two docket numbers. The first one, 0192, was filed by Councilor Bach and co-sponsored by Councilor Louisian. It was to discuss land use tools for public good, basically urban renewal tools that we have that are available to us, and I believe Council Bach will get up and speak about some of those. So we had two separate panels. The first panel was from the BPDA, and they spoke on 0314, which was the extension for 14 urban renewal areas, and so we were able to dig into a lot of content. We talked about LDAs quite a bit, land disposition agreements. We talked about land trusts and a whole lot of, there was a whole lot of content there. But what we came up with the 14 urban renewal areas, 6 years ago, we took a vote to extend it to this April. So basically, if we don't take a vote on this, all 14 of these go away. And within those districts, there's a number of tools that we use that help us in development and also protect the LDAs, protect affordable housing, they protect open space, they protect a whole wide range of different things. So what we come up with out of the 14, I believe we're going to take votes on extending 9 of them, and we're thinking about, we're not taking a vote on this today. We're looking to bring it to a vote next week, so councilors have a week to talk about it, see what's within their districts. I know Councilor Worrell has some changes, so we want to give different people different times, but we're looking to extend 9 of them, 10 of them, extend 10 of them, because we added Park Plaza in there. Park Plaza was on the list that we would sunset, but there are some major concerns around height issues and things like that around Park Plaza. So we will have the vote on that hopefully next week, and Councilor Flaherty wanted to extend it 2 years and do a 6-month check-in every 2 years. So what I think we're looking at doing, and we're open to it, is extend it a year and do a 6-month check-in, which would be, I believe, in the end of September. So these will remain in committee, and we'll vote on them. We'll vote on 0314 next week. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the lead sponsor of 0192, Councilor Bach.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Baker. The chair recognizes Councilor Bach. Councilor Bach, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you to Councilor Baker for running such a thorough hearing yesterday, and to my co-sponsor, Councilor Louis Jen. We appreciated everybody's indulgence letting us combine these two things, because in some ways they were kind of two sides of the same coin. On the one hand, we've got the long and difficult legacy in the city of urban renewal. As I mentioned there, I represent the West End, which is one of the many parts of the city that bore the brunt of that. And I think that the mayor's administration is laying out a path for us to really transform the city's relationship to planning into these tools, and looking at places where it's appropriate to sunset. At the same time, some of the stuff we were talking about yesterday was, how do we think about using some of these tools that we have for things like community land trust, for things like building social housing on public land. And I think we had a really good second panel with some of the advocates in those spaces, thinking about, on the climate mitigation side, how do we assemble land parcels where we might need them to protect the fringes of the city. So I think it was a really productive conversation, and as Councilor Baker said, I think the first part came out with some kind of good trajectories for the immediate decision at hand, but I'm very optimistic about the opportunity for the council to be part of a real re-envisioning of how we use land use tools and public land for public good in the city. So thank you so much to everybody who came.
Thank you, Councilor Bach. Would anyone else like to speak on this matter? Docket 0192 will remain in committee. Docket 0314 will remain in committee. Motions, order, and resolutions. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0409.
Docket number 0409. Councilor Fernandez Anderson offered the following: in order for a hearing to discuss developing an app to support parental involvement and support.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Fernandez Anderson. Councilor Fernandez Anderson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So in my experiences, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of my efforts in my past experiences and the things that I've developed over the years working in behavioral health, working for the Boston Public Schools, as well as just working in community advocacy as well. So as a foster parent, there are so many ways that there are resources already existing that supports our children in the community or lack thereof. When you're a parent, especially when you're a single parent, and you lack resources to navigate a child's schedule, to navigate all of these services that come into place, especially with a high-level care of foster care, you definitely need more resources to be able to consolidate all of these services, all of the collaterals, all of the appointments, all of the people involved that it takes in order for you to raise a child in a healthy environment. And so I spent 11 years working as an intensive care coordinator, which means essentially an umbrella of that oversees all behavioral health initiatives. And the issue that I faced was basically that in providing, I also provided in-home therapy to families. And so in providing those services, you have to assist parents with charts or therapeutic interventions in order for them to, follow through with the therapeutic treatment plans. And so you give them charts, you create different ways of navigating these systems or of supporting that child with that out-of-school time. But it's all over the place. People are inundated with stressors, people are busy, people have 2 jobs, and there are so many collaterals and different services coming in to the child's home.
Thank you.
And so all of these charts are not enough to be able to consolidate services and to be able to organize a child's out-of-school time. What I then did is created a toolbox that I would give parents, right? So back then, it would be a toolbox that, one is for behavior modification, or one is understanding a child diagnosis and what that meant in order to follow through with the treatment plan. This one is for de-escalating crisis. This one is for communication. This one is for maybe problem solving. It's a lot on a parent. It's a lot for them to track your child's, all of the physical appointments with the doctors. Maybe the alternative for psych meds is physical therapy or some sort of, fitness and wellness, nutrition, and all the other stuff. So I thought what an opportunity would be to create this toolbox that offered all of it in one place. So I actually created this, and I would do like group therapy and all these other stuff that would do it. Then when I went into BPS, I worked partly with Parent University as well as Family Engagement, where parents can attain classes or credit courses by taking these courses that would support their children with academic supports in the home. And I also taught ESL. So then I went into creating this curriculum, sort of a binder that parents can also support their children with academic supports in the home. So always thinking of how to consolidating this and making it easier for parents. Here I am in City Hall. I thought, wow, here we go full circle, right? As a parent, as a single parent, we know. For those of you who are not parents yet, even when you have your nieces and nephew with you or you're babysitting, it's a lot, and let's admit it. At first, you kind of wing it. You just, you know what I mean? Your first child breaks a leg, your second child is okay, your third child is the genius. That's the child that makes it. So I am proposing that we get together and talk about the possibilities of looking at different curriculums, the possibility of looking at already stuff that's already in place. How do we collaborate maybe with a tech company or maybe a school to look at a possibility of one location to put all of this so that one, the parent is saying, Johnny brushed his teeth, or behavior modification, you get stars, and the incentive is at the end of the week, you get allowance. But you track it all in one place. Me and my kids, I'm a tomboy. I know, I look cute, I'm very girly, but I'm a tomboy. I ride a pickup truck. So I used to run with my kids 5 o'clock in the morning. But what if this app could also do physical fitness tracking? What if this app can also do nutrition? We're teaching parents that have very little resources to put all of this in one place and help them to be involved, homeschool connection, therapeutic intervention follow support, behavioral modification, connecting to the psych, connecting to all the services, all on one location. We know with digital divide, parents don't always have the time or the access to go on computers, but they're on Facebook, right? They're on Twitter. They have a phone. And so maybe we can use those resources to make it more accessible, user-friendly, and support our families in improving and setting up their child for success. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Fernandez Anderson. Would anyone else like to speak on this matter? The chair recognizes Councilor Baker. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Fernandez Anderson. I'm the 12th of 13, so I guess that makes me like a super genius or something like that. But I just want to rise and sign my name on. Thank you.
Thank you. Please add Councilor Baker's name. Would anyone else like to speak? The chair recognizes Councilor Edwards. Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
I wanted to rise to thank the maker. I think this is an incredibly creative approach to having the city meet people where they are and really acknowledging who the people are and what their day-to-day concerns and issues are, coming from the perspective of a single parent, coming from somebody who, as you said, is just trying to manage so many balls in the air. Creating an app or creating a city service is what I see it as, that meets people there so that they can download it and possibly help organize wealth, organize health, organize their day-to-day concerns and issues. And this is part of a lot of conversations when it comes to apps. As some of you may be aware, Attorney General Maura Healey had an app that dealt with young people and who are in recovery or potentially going to be in recovery and concerns. So meeting people through an app is something a lot of local governments, if not our state government, has already tried to do. And I think it's wonderful to meet parents that way. They are already reaching out in so many different digital aspects to try and deal with how we run, how we eat, if you have intermittent fasting, if you have social connections, meeting people across the world. It's all happening on our watches. So the fact that the city of Boston that is so committed to meeting people where they are should also come up with a way to meet people on their watches or on their website, that people can download apps. For our school buses, we do that right now. We download apps to figure out all sorts of different things. So I think it's great. I also wanted to just echo the work that we have done in the city council, the conversations we've had, that as we build this, again, meeting people where they are, opportunity, see what I did there? Yeah. Okay, whatever. As we build this, just wanted to note the work that our sisters in service, Mayor Wu, and also Councilor at Large, Julia Mejia, did in the language access ordinance, to making sure that as this is developed, we are developing in a way that it's meeting all people where they are in the language that they want, and again, credit where credit's due, not necessarily in words, but using the app to meet people who may not have the same literacy competency as everybody else. So thank you again, Councilor Mejia, for making sure that as we grow to meet people, we're meeting them that way as well. So I look forward to a culturally competent, language accessible, app conversation about meeting parents and gathering resources together. Thank you so much for starting that conversation, Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. The chair recognizes Councilor Mejia. Councilor Mejia, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Flynn, and thank you to my sister who is bringing so much innovation and creativity to how we are approaching city government and the role that we play. So I just want to thank Councilor Fernandez Anderson for her thoughtfulness and innovative ways of how we move. Through our committee around accessibility, these are the sort of things that we have really been exploring, like how do we make sure that city services are accessible to the people, so that accessibility piece is really important. And I really do appreciate my colleague, Councilor Edwards, uplifting the fact that there are a lot of people, adults, you know, I often talk about the fact that my mom didn't make it beyond the 3rd grade and struggles to read and write even in her native language. And as we start thinking about accessibility, that we have to be super mindful of the fact that we have returning citizens who are coming back who are struggling with literacy. We have young people who are being passed from grade to grade who are struggling with literacy. So all of our digital accessibility issues need to be centered on the fact that not everybody knows how to read and write. And that's a privilege that a lot of us have. So thinking about the use of visuals and videos and other ways. It's going to cost a little bit more, but if we're serious about making sure that it's everyone has access to the information, even if it's through an app. That visual component and audio is going to be key to the success of this. And I also really do appreciate that you brought in your own story in terms of navigating, because as my good colleague, Councilor Lara, always says, that the personal is political, right? And when we're creating policies that we have lived through, what the solutions that we come to the table with are based on things that we wish we would have had. And so I know that your leadership in this space, not only is going to be about the public hearing, but you're going to also lean into it to make sure that we also get the resources that we need to be able to do it. I just want to say thank you. And Councilor Lara, I uplifted you and our education committee, because you do mention that the personal is political and professional, and the intersectionality is, the expectation is that we're supposed to leave ourselves at the door when we come into this chamber, but we need to bring all of who we are into these spaces so that we can make sure that we fight for the people who put us here, to ensure that we're representing them and their issues, and that's what this does today. So thank you, Councilor Fernandez-Anderson.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. Anyone else like to speak on this matter?
Oh, can you add my name too, please?
Yes, please add Councilor Mejia's name. The chair recognizes Councilor Flaherty. Please add Councilor Flaherty's name. If you'd like to add your name, please raise your hand. Please add Councilor Arroyo, Councilor Bach, Councilor Braden, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Flaherty, Councilor Lara, Councilor Lujan, Councilor Mejia, Councilor Murphy, Councilor Worrell. Please add the chair. Docket 0409 will be referred to the Committee on Public Health, Homelessness, and Recovery. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0410, please.
Docket number 0410, Councilor Flynn offered the following: resolution in support of Sheraton Hotel workers.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The chair recognizes the lead sponsor, Councilor Flynn. Councilor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. Councilor Arroyo, may I suspend Rule 12 and add Councilors Lujan and Fernandez-Anderson as co-sponsors to the resolution, please?
Seeing no objection and hearing no objection, Councilors Lujan and Fernandez-Anderson are added. Councilor Flynn, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. This is a resolution in support of the Sheraton Hotel workers. Many of them are here today, but as we know, Sheraton Hotel is managed by the Marriott Hotel. However, recent news reports have indicated that there's a possibility of converting these rooms into dorm rooms for a particular university. If this happens, several hundred workers could lose their job. Workers such as these workers, many of them immigrants, communities of color, women, hard workers. A job in the hotel hospitality industry presents work as a clear path to the middle class. It's hard work. It's back-breaking work. But to protect Boston's status as a world-class destination for travelers, the city relies on these workers. They do a tremendous job. They're professional. They're hard workers. They're highly trained. They're highly skilled. So this resolution would show our support as a body. We've always supported the hotel and restaurant workers. All of my colleagues over the many years, I've partnered with Councilor Edwards many times and Mayor Wu many times, Councilor Wu. But this resolution would say to the hotel workers that you matter during this pandemic, that you worked hard and you struggled, you sacrificed, you made Boston a city. And now that the pandemic is over, and now that travel is coming back to the city, what are we going to do? We're going to cut the jobs after this pandemic. No, that's not what a world-class city would do. That's not what a progressive, so-called progressive city would do. You live in our neighborhoods, you're our teachers, you're our youth sports coaches, you're involved in Little League and the PTA programs. So you're really the backbone of our city, and we're proud of you. So it'd be unconscionable, in my opinion, for anyone to try to downsize your work because you do a tremendous job representing yourself, your family, but also the residents of Boston. So I'd like to ask my colleagues as well as my original co-sponsors if they would like to speak. Councilor Arroyo, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. The chair recognizes the second co-sponsor, Councilor Louis Jen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, President Flynn, for sponsoring this resolution. I stand in solidarity with our hotel workers who are here today. We are here to say that we are with you and stand with you in protecting your jobs. President Flynn did a really great job of saying who you are. You're our Little League coaches, you're our leaders in our community, we're the people that we count on, but for many of us here in this room, you're also our family. So many of my family members work in the hotel industry, are members of Local 26, and this weekend at a political event, a lot of people were like, oh, I met your sister, I met your sister. And for me, when I'm in that space, I always think that they're talking about meeting my sister who's an assistant district attorney, but they told me, no, we met your sister at the Marriott, she was serving us. And so when I talk about these issues, about standing in solidarity with all of you, I'm talking about standing with my family. I see all of you and our working class folks who are here to uplift the city as our family and the ones that we need to do everything to protect when they're coming for your jobs. And as President Flynn said, definitely during, especially during a pandemic. So I stand with you because you all are leaders in our community, but you're also family. And we always stand with family. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Louis Jen. Councilor Tanya Fernandez-Anderson, the third co-sponsor. The floor is yours.
Buenos días. Boa tarde, todo mundo. Obrigado, Sally. I, too, stand in solidarity with my brothers and sisters of Local 26. I would just wanted to share, when I came here from Cape Verde, I know it's always like, when I came here to this country. It's not like that. When I came here from Cape Verde, my grandmother would sneak me in the Sheraton Hotel, and I would get all the room service, all the foods, all the snacks. And then for Christmas, they used to do like this whole, like Local 26 would come in, they would do the party every Christmas. And I remember, I was too creeped out to sit on Santa's lap, but I remember Santa and I remember all of the gifts. And the point is, my grandmother dedicated 32 years in service with Local 26. Thank you. She then, and I would admire just her tenacity and resiliency and her ability to be able to work and be so disciplined and be able to serve with humility and just so much confidence that Local 26 was going to protect her after her retirement, and they did just that. I think that I speak for all of us when I say that everyone knows that they do not get paid enough. So that's the battle to come after this. We should definitely send in solidarity. This is absolutely something that every one of us should sign on. I look forward to working with you, and thank you so much for everything that you do. I too am very proud of you. Mucho orgullo. Gracias.
Thank you, Councilor Fernandez-Anderson. Councilor Flaherty, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just rise to have my name added. I'm always going to be a staunch supporter of our hotel workers, but also want to give a shout out to Jamie McNeil and his team. He and they are ever present. They're at community meetings, they're at public events, they're here at City Hall, they come to our hearings, and it's because they're dialed in, they pay attention to what we're doing here, they pay attention to what's happening out in our communities, they're fighting for their members. We spoke regularly. I know that Council President Flynn and I and Jamie were speaking regularly throughout the pandemic, trying to find ways to kind of keep folks working and keep them optimistic and hopeful that the pandemic would end and things would turn. And we're starting to see that now. We've had a number of bookings at the convention center. Our hotels are now starting to come back alive. Our restaurants are now starting to come back alive. So, and thanks to their perseverance, hopefully they and their fellow brothers and sisters in the union will now get back to work and be doing what they do best. And they're the backbone, arguably, of our city. We boast of having a lot of successes here. And one of the success stories that we have is our Hotel Workers Union, who do phenomenal work on behalf, and they put a shine on all of the visitors that come here, all the tourists that come here. One of the first impressions that they have, or folks that they meet, are our hotel workers, either taking care of them at a dining table or assisting them coming and going from a hotel. So thanks for the great work that they do, and again, please add my name, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. The chair recognizes Councilor Edwards. Councilor Edwards, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to note that our standing in solidarity in this moment is also standing in solidarity with the hotel industry. The fact of the matter is, we in this body have done many things to protect the industry and thus and always the workers. This body came up with one of the most aggressive Airbnb legislations to make sure that hotels weren't spread around in our neighborhoods and people weren't trying to create an underground economy, and instead were having a hotel vibrant system that was staying and paying union wages. We did that here. We in this body passed the hotel and tourism bid, thank you, co-sponsor Councilor Baker, to make sure that we were actually coming up with a way for the hotel industry to recover. They are now collecting money, actually since October, since we passed the bid. We're the first in the state, by the way. Boston did that. And they're going to be collecting upwards of $10 million a year to save their own industry. And by the way, that passed because of the support of these workers in Local 26 who came in support of the bid and of the hotel and tourism industry. So here we are now, the industry is coming back, and the hotel wants to convert itself into a dorm, which is institutional creep from another matter, and our higher education institutions that won't even pay their pilots, but that's another conversation. But on this conversation, the fact that they would change the industry, change the rules after getting certain benefits, after seeing so much coming together for them to come back and bounce back, literally just for profit. It can't be for anything else, just for profit. This isn't to help house students. You know they're going to charge them market rate and further in debt many of us students who are still paying back student loans. This isn't for anything except for them to make money. And we don't do that here in Boston. We're going to fight that, and we're going to make sure that they maintain the good jobs, that are generational wealth, that we create a retirement system that is necessary for our communities to thrive. These are my neighbors. These are people from East Boston, Charlestown, and the North End, and throughout all of Boston, and also Revere, and now some Winthrop, too. Thank you all. Thank you all for that, helping me get hired in another position. But the fact of the matter is, you fought for my job, I'm fighting for yours. And more importantly, we have to understand this is what we do. We have, as a body, always stood up against when they want to close down companies, when they want to lock out workers, when they did that with United Steel, Councilor Flynn. We stand up, and a lot of people ask, what is it our business? This is a private decision. This is a private company trying to do what they want to do. Not at all. This is our business every single time. The business of Boston and good workers and good union jobs is always our business. And we stand with you to make sure that you survive and thrive in this city. And thank you so much for coming here today. Thank you, Councilor Flynn.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. The chair recognizes Councilor Bach. Councilor Bach, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much to President Flynn and to Councilors Louis Jen and Fernandez-Anderson for bringing this before us. Please add my name. I think what I really want to say is a follow-up on what Councilor Edwards said. We know the reason that we're here today talking about this and why workers are worried about losing their jobs. It's a real estate play, right? There's the idea that, we're going to make more money off of this piece of real estate if we go a different direction with it. And, some folks are going to read in the paper today about the fact that the state is back talking about disposing of the Heinz again. And you know what? That's another real estate play. It's another hey, you know what? I think there's a little bit more money, a little more delta profit if we go this route. And I think it's so important that this is the chamber where we do not look out over the city and see a bunch of overlapping real estate plays. What we see is an actual community where our people work and live, and that's the substance of the city. And I feel like we don't have a lot of factories left in this town with great union jobs in that way, manufacturing, but we have great union jobs in our hotels, which, by the way, Local 26 and the workers here fought like hell to preserve a few years ago. And I just feel like it's so important for us to say the substance of the city is these jobs, is our communities, and that we are just not going to bow before a perspective on the city that sees it as a piggy bank for investors to extract things from. So please add my name. I stand with you, and we will do all in our power on this and on that.
Thank you, Councilor Bach. Chair recognizes Councilor Mejia. Councilor Mejia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilor Arroyo, and thank you to those sponsors for putting forth this resolution. You know, I just want to rise to say I'm here for this all day, every day. Add my name, but I also just want to underscore the importance of the difference a union makes in terms of organizing and protecting its workers. I often talked about, and I know I'm bringing my mom back to the chamber again, and I'm not going to go down memory lane, but you know, my mom right now is 73 years old, and she's still too poor to retire. We tried to help her become a union. Unite 26 did, unsuccessfully, right? And so when you have protection and when you have solidarity, but when you have people in government that are willing to stand up and fight alongside you, that's when we're going to send a strong message that you can't continue to do business as usual. So I rise to say I'm here for you. We'll continue to be. Congratulations, because we're claiming victory, right? And please sign my name to the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on the matter? Seeing no one, would anyone else like to add their name? Mr. Clerk, please add Councilor Baker. Please add Councilor Braden. Please add Councilor Edwards. Please add Councilor Flaherty. Please add Councilor Lara. Please add Councilor Mejia. Please add Councilor Murphy. Please add Councilor Worrell, and please add the chair. Councilor Flynn, Councilor Louis Jen, Councilors Fernandez Anderson seek suspension of the rules and passage of docket 410. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. Aye. The ayes have it. Docket 410 has been adopted.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Councilor Arroyo. Thank you to the members of Local 26 for being here with us today. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0411, please. Okay, yeah. Mr. Clerk, before you do that, the chair calls on Councilor Bach. Councilor Bach, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move reconsideration on docket 0406, 0407, and 0408 to recommend that they be shifted to the Committee on Planning, Development, and Transportation. I want to express huge thanks to Central staff who went and dug up the references, and we determined that for many decades these were not confirmed by Council, but in 2018 an amendment was passed that made these subject to Council confirmation. So knowing that, the Beacon Architectural District is in my district, and these confirmations are needed very urgently. So my next thing will be to push the chair to hold this hearing soon. But I want to make sure, yeah, it's just going to be you. But but the point is, it would be bad for the commission if we sent them through an error without our confirmation, because then they wouldn't be legally valid. So it's just important that we do it this way. So if I can motion that those be moved to Planning, Development, and Transportation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Bach.
We don't need to. It's okay. We can hold a hearing. We don't have to literally do it today.
We'll take a quick brief recess. We're back in session. The chair calls on Councilor Bork. Councilor Bork, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you forgive me, I would like to withdraw my prior motion, and instead yes. And instead make a motion to suspend and pass these dockets. Having consulted with the chair, I think he's amenable to that. And as was mentioned before, we're actually in a situation where there's only one current valid member on the commission. There's a few alternates, but it's creating a kind of untenable situation. So I would love to move for reconsideration to suspend and pass docket 0406, 0407, and 0408, Mr. Chair.
Does anybody second that?
We're okay. I don't know.
We'll take a quick brief recess. Back in session. Chair calls on Councilor Bork. Councilor Bork, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. So I just withdrew my initial motion, and now instead I'm moving suspension and passage of dockets 0406, 0407, and 0408 with the consent of the chair of Planning, Development, and Transportation. The Beacon Hill Architectural Commission currently only has one valid full member, and so it's creating a real issue on our side. And all three of these people are well-known folks who've been very active in the community. And so, Mr. President, I seek reconsideration since I know we put them on file, but instead to suspend and pass all three dockets. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bork. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Councilor Edwards, second the motion. At this time, the chair recognizes Councilor Baker. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
I just wanted to rise, and in consultation with Council Bork, and I'm familiar with this situation here. I believe for the Beacon Hill Architectural Commission to actually do business, this is an easy vote for me here, so I have no problem not having a hearing on these ones. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. So on docket 0406, 0407, 0408, Mr. Clerk, are we taking a... We're going to take a vote on each one separately. So we'll start with 0406. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0406 is passed. Docket 0407. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0408, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Docket 0406, docket 0407, docket 0408 have passed. We're on to personnel orders. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0411.
Docket number 0411, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Arroyo.
The chair seeks suspension of the rules, passage of docket 0411. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, read docket 0412.
Docket number 0412, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Arroyo.
The chair seeks suspension of the rules, passage of docket 0412. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0413.
Docket number 0413, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Arroyo.
The chair seeks suspension of the rules, passage of docket 0413. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0414.
Docket number 0414, Councilor Flynn for Councilor Arroyo.
The chair seeks suspension of the rules, passage of docket 0414. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, Please read docket 0415.
Docket number 0415, Counselor Flynn for Counselor Fernandez Anderson.
The chair seeks suspension of the rules, passage of docket 0415. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. Mr. Clerk, please read docket 0416.
Docket number 0416, Counselor Flynn offer the following. Order for the appointment of temporary employees in City Council effective March 19, 2022.
Chair seeks suspension of the rules, passage of docket 0416. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The docket is passed. We're moving on to late files. I am informed by the clerk that there are no late file matters. We're on to green sheets. Any council looking to remove something from the green sheets, please let me know. We're on to consent agenda. I have been informed by the clerk that there are 0 additions to the consent agenda. The chair moves for the adoption of the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. The consent agenda has passed, has been adopted. Announcements. Does any councilor have any announcements at this time? The chair recognizes Councilor Edwards. Councilor Edwards, you have the floor.
I want to thank you all. I come with some sad news today. In East Boston, we lost a young mother, 27 years old, leaving 2 young children to the ongoing and increasing epidemic that we've had with the opioid crisis. And I think it's important to remember that. She was not what she died of. She was an incredible human being. Alicia was a kind-hearted soul who struggled like a lot of us. And unfortunately, in this moment, God called her home. Her mother, Mimi, is an incredibly active member of the Grove Street community, knows what we do here at City Council, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't forget. I mean, she leaves the little ones behind. So I want to just say Alicia's name today. And I'm very sorry to Mimi for her only child, the loss of her only child. Also this Sunday, well, many of you have met Gerardo. He's a kind man. He's with special needs, an incredible heart though. He's from the North End. He works in our office. He actually speaks Italian still as a first language. He had been an incredible hokey for the North End, and he worked very hard. And so we brought him on in the staff to hope that he could maybe be brought on to continue on to work at the City of Boston. He's my first staffer that has died, and we found out that he died on Sunday in his sleep. And so I will be talking with his mother, but many of you met him. Some of your staffers knew him too. He's very quiet. And so I actually brought this for you all to please sign. I don't know if we've had any staffers lost in this time, but this is my first one. And I'm just for Gerardo and his mother to see this, so I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councilor Edwards. The chair recognizes Councilor Baker. Councilor Baker, you have the floor.
Yep. Councilor Edwards, sorry for your losses, and I appreciate you saying the young woman's name. I had a young niece that I lost the same way and left children. It was difficult. But with that, I would be remiss. It's actually happy in my house this week. I celebrate 3 birthdays. When you talk family, you have your family, your parents, and then your family. But when you have your own children, it's your family. And my whole family celebrates their birthdays in the next couple of days. My wife, today, she celebrates her birthday tomorrow. Yes, her name is Today. And we've been together 36 years. We're on our 20th anniversary next month, and I'll announce that next month. Yeah. I need to tell her that I love her, and her support for me makes me the man that I am. And also Benjamin and Maxine, my twins, turned 16 on Monday, and they're totally awesome and great kids. And they're really nice outside the house, not so nice inside the house, but nice outside the house. And I'm fortunate to be to have the family that I have and the supports that I have. So I have to show that respect to them. So thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me.
Thank you, Councilor Baker. The chair recognizes Councilor Murphy. Councilor Murphy, you have the floor.
Announcements today. Firstly, many councilors say how we're only as good as our staff, which we all know is true. They work very hard day in and day out supporting our offices and all of our residents across the city. But I want to shout out two of my staff members today. First, my scheduler, Ryan Clark, who's a family member to Baker. She's the one who keeps me in line. She keeps me on time and showing up to all the right places across the city. She has quite arguably the most important job in our office, and she started working with me here on day one when I came in on December 1st. Like many of our staff, they have busy lives outside of City Hall, and Ryan has been in school and juggling life. The reason she's not at work today is because she's at her graduation. So I want to congratulate her for putting her hard work in and making that happen. I'm very proud of you. She's family to me, so I'm just happy. So second, Thomas Mannion, who is our Director of Constituent Services, who's also a proud member of the Air Force National Guard, has been ordered by the Secretary of the Air Force to active duty. So he will be deployed on March 28th for at least the next 96 days. So I would like all of us to join me in thanking him for his service to our country and to pray for a speedy return. As you all know, when you get this job, it's 24/7, so your staff becomes family if they're not already. Thirdly, I'm not going to cry on this one, but I do want to say and recognize Michael Rocca, more commonly known as the 14th Councilor, for marching with us, rolling with us on Sunday, and also want to shout out Councilor Flaherty, who I know always invites him to march in the parade. And I look forward to joining you next year, and I did print out that photo that we took along the parade route, so I wanted to give that to you.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody.
One last thing, it's quick, it's good. So I know we talk a lot about supporting our neighborhoods and our restaurants and our small businesses. And so this will most arguably be the most delicious announcement I've ever made on the council chamber and the floor. But I was scrolling through and saw that our very own Mike's Pastry right here on Hanover Street has, which is a small, family business that was founded back in 1946, which isn't so small anymore. But it was recently named as one of the top 25 Yelp reviewed places in the entire United States. So I did go over before the meeting, and I brought some cannolis to share. I told them I'd come over, so you can't just thank local restaurants, you have to support them with your money where you move over. So I did bring these for our central staff and our councilors to enjoy. So thank you very much, and congratulations, Mike's Pastry.
Thank you, Councilor Murphy. I'd also like to acknowledge two of our neighbors here from South Boston that are in the room, John Provenzano and Billy Coyne. I want to say thank you to both gentlemen for being here, both City Point guys. Thank you. And Councilor Flaherty was trying to put Mike, our 14th city councilor, on the payroll, but we couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Would the chair recognizes Councilor Fernandez-Anderson. Councilor Fernandez-Anderson, you have the floor, please.
If I can sit, I'm sorry. I just wanted to share my sentiments to my colleague, Lydia Edwards. it takes an amazing strength to be able to go through what you went through, and to go to announce, your announcement today, I'm sure, was not easy. And I pray for your healing and love and peace. And thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you, Council Fernandez Anderson. Today we will adjourn our meeting in memory of the following individuals. For Councilor Braden, Luis Acoin. For Councilors Flynn, Flaherty, and Baker, Bob Olson, Associate Probation Officer. A moment of silence, please. The chair moves that when the council adjourns today, it does so in memory of those individuals mentioned. We are now scheduled to meet again in the Ionella Chamber on Wednesday, March 30th at 12 noon. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. The council is adjourned. Thank you, Central staff, and thank you to the clerk's office.